Reckless Desires. Dude,
Nice.
yeah, man. This is a great record, dude. How do you feel about it, man? Let's see.
It's weird. I mean, it's been a few years since I like actually made most of the record, so
Yeah.
I feel like I've moved past it a little bit to some degree, but
Yeah.
I'm definitely proud of it, and we're gonna be playing a lot of these songs when we tour in January with the band.
Yeah, dude. January, starting in Asheville.
Yep.
Dude, that's incredible.
Yeah, so like I said, it came out in 2020, and we did one show.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, we did like a live stream thing the day that it came out.
Mm-hmm.
So we rehearsed a ton just for that one show, and so
Wow.
That's crazy.
a little disappointing. But this tour in January is going to be the closest thing to like a Purple Noon tour. We're going to definitely feature a lot of the songs.
Dude, that's great, man. The show that you rehearsed for, was it the live stream that you did out there in the pier with all the boats?
Yeah.
Yeah, that was nice, man. That was
Yeah,
really
it was very DIY. Like your setup here is way nicer than what we had.
Dude, it looked great, man. It looked great.
We had one friend of mine who was like running around, you know, trying to put everything together, and the rough part about doing it completely live like that was the weather, and like it was super windy that day, and we're just like out in the middle of nowhere on the water.
Yeah.
And so we were frantically like trying to come up with ways to block the wind, and like we initially didn't have any wind screen, like the screens.
Yeah.
So like the audio just sounded terrible.
Oh, wow.
But we had another friend that just rushed to this store and got back just in time, and we wanted to do it at sunset, so it was like a really small window to do it. So luckily it ended up working out.
Yeah, dude. In the Magic Hour, you were doing the Magic Hour streams as well, right?
Yeah.
Around the same time, maybe?
It's weird. It's like I spent a ton of time and energy working on the record, and you want to like promote it as best you can, but obviously that was right in the heart of lockdown and stuff. So that was about one of the best options I had, was to do some of these DJ live stream things, and it was a crash course in me learning how to like network up the cameras, and
it looked like you had a multi-camera setup for that too. And you had people helping you out with all
that was just me.
Oh wow. Dude,
I could occasionally get my wife to come out there and help me a little bit, but it was fun. It actually was cool to spend a lot of time like listening to new music and like digging for songs for that, because I felt like it was a specific style, a little more like current contemporary music. I kind of bounce around with my DJ kind of aesthetic, and at that point it was a lot more kind of pop contemporary stuff.
Yeah, for sure, man. But yeah, I know David Garrick is here with us, closed captioned.
What's up?
He has a few questions as well, man.
Yeah, I was gonna ask. Your first record came out on Stone's Throw. It's kind of a weird thing. What was that about? Like, was it just the one record and that was it?
Yeah. So I grew up a huge fan of the label. When I first started making music, I was really into hip hop, and like Mad Lib was like God, like just sampling and stuff was like a big part of my process, and still is. So I was trying to kind of channel some of that influence. I mean, I didn't want to just make straight up like boom bap hip hop. I wanted to kind of do my own spin on it. I was also listening to a lot of house music and stuff. And so, I consider it kind of like a love letter to the label. And so, luckily I ended up having like a connection to them, and reached out, and they were interested in putting out. So it was like, it was always going to be just like a one record thing. And, Purple Noon, the newer record, is quite different. I don't think it would have fit in with them. So, no drama.
Yeah, no drama, dude. It's a great record.
So how did that work out? I mean, were you literally just kind of like, hey, Sub Pop, I've got this record, check it out? Or,
yeah.
Really?
Yeah. I mean, I still had a great relationship with them. And I think it fits into what I think of as the Sub Pop kind of standard. It's a little bit more kind of pop oriented, I think.
Yeah.
I was like focused a lot more on like melody and like songwriting as opposed to the sample-based kind of experimentation stuff. So yeah, they were into it, and they've been happy, I think, with how everything's gone. Obviously, like, probably could have done a little bit better if we could have been out there touring and promoting, but yeah.
There's nothing you can do about that, though. I mean, it's life, unfortunately.
Yeah, it's so weird, like, we're going to do the tour in January, and, like, I'm in a completely different headspace, like 2 years later, and I would love to be able to play, like, some of the new tunes I've been making, but it doesn't quite really fit in, so we'll see. I might put out a couple songs before the tour just to kind of remind people that I'm still around, because it's been a minute.
You just released, speaking of new releases, you just released Sydney's Lullaby. That's cool, man.
Yeah, so that was
instrumental.
Yeah, I agreed to do, like, they pressed up vinyl for that. It's like a 7-inch like A and B side or whatever, and it takes forever to actually manufacture all that, so they asked me to do it a long time ago, and at the time I like was coming off the back of like all of the live streams and stuff promoting this, and I hadn't really worked on much music outside of just stuff that I do for fun, which is kind of an in-between moments, like on a flight or whatever. I like have an iPad and will like use this a handful of apps that's it's more kind of like how modular synths work. It's like you sort of set up these sequences and stuff, and they kind of go off on their own and do weird things. Sometimes it's cool, sometimes it's not.
That's cool. Is it between different apps? Because I know there's apps that work together, like if you were to download one app and another one.
It's basically using like it has all these parameters where you can like tweak randomization, and so a sequence will be started and then it ends up kind of going off in its own direction, and so that's how I do a lot of stuff like that just for fun. But anyway, cool. Those two songs are put together like that, and
that's awesome, man.
It was really the only stuff I had at the time, and it's again not really a traditional like song. It's more of kind of like an ambient thing.
Yeah, it's soundtrack, I would say. Yeah, it's nice.
But it also fit really well with the whole pandemic lockdown thing. Yeah. Like I was definitely spending more time with my family than I ever had. I travel a lot normally, and so and my kids are super young, and so there was just a quality about it that just really reminded me of them. So dedicated it to them.
That's super sweet, man.
Well, I know that like your work over the years has grown exponentially. Like, what do you attribute that to? I mean, is it a personal thing, or is it just kind of how it goes?
Yeah, I think mostly it's practical of like, working on that Mr. Miller record, which was 90% sample based. I just got sick of doing that, and so I wanted to like write more traditional songs like at a piano, and that's kind of how Purple Noon was put together.
Nice.
Sort of wrote the songs first, and then figured out the production stuff later. And I feel like that's I'm just kind of going down the road, and I hear new things, and I want to kind of incorporate that into what I do. So it's constantly changing. So I'm in. Normally I have like a year or two of touring a record, and I'm just traveling a lot, so I can listen to a bunch of music, and I'm like slowly figuring out what I want to try next.
Yeah. And
it's been a bit odd not touring with this record. I haven't quite figured out what the next direction is. You would think having a lot more time I would, but
being on the road, I'm sure, kind of gives you all this different influence.
Yeah, you might, we'll play a festival or something, and it's like see some band I've never heard of, and I'm, like pull ideas from, and so
also communicating with different people and talking. And
for sure.
All the conversations.
So we'll see.
2 years of like pretty much a freeze.
Yeah.
And you're like stuck in this moment, and you're gonna release it in January to the masses.
I was actually a little bit stuck. I just felt like I was like still a little bit in the same patterns of like the Purple Noon stuff. And then I mentioned to you I recently moved to I was living in Atlanta, and I moved to this other city, and I have like quite a bit of just land now. It's like 20 acres of
Jesus.
Yeah, it's basically out in the middle of nowhere, and it's like a completely different vibe obviously, but it's like sort of opened up this I feel very inspired being there, and so I'm like making this kind of like pastoral sounding stuff. So
Nice.
it maybe might be the newest direction. We'll see how it turns out.
Hell yeah, dude. We're
I
excited.
mean, the first record is not even a decade old, but it's light years behind the new album. What do you kind of put that towards?
Well, it's probably getting a little bit better with production, but at the same time, I realized that production. You know, when I first started, I only cared about production really, and like, you know, I would like write lyrics maybe like a half hour before I went and recorded them, not really thinking about them very much. And I think I probably spent a lot more time on like the craft of songwriting.
Sure.
That might not come through at all in the actual music. I don't know, but I realized the production side is a little bit easier to figure out after the fact. You know, if it's not a good song, you know, no one's gonna want to spend time listening to it. I think that has something to do with it. I'm just really curious. I'm like, you know, love hearing some new shit like an 18-year-old kid's doing
Yeah.
Sure.
that blows my mind.
Yeah.
And, you know, I'm more influenced by that than, you know, for the longest time I was like digging up like old records from the 60s and 70s or whatever and finding inspiration there. But more recently it's like I said, shit that like 16-year-old kids are doing that, you know, have grown up always having the internet in their life and just
Yeah.
super schizophrenic when it comes to what they're listening to or whatever, you know.
Right.
It's
Yeah,
like,
for sure.
I think it's super interesting, and so I try to incorporate some of that into what I do.
Yeah, you're using a lot of electronics and heavy production on this one, I feel, right?
Yeah. I mean, I was like going for like a lot more like brighter,
Yeah.
and just all around like fuller sound, you know. There's like 808s
Yeah.
on I mean, it's not, you know, mixed in the same way that like a Travis Scott record is, but
Yeah.
you know, I've never used that. I basically did some production for this artist named Sudan Archives.
Oh, yeah.
She's on Stone Throw as well.
That's
and
right. She's really
her
great.
vibe is like, you know, more contemporary kind of like
Yeah.
R&B. You know, a little different than that, but anyway.
That's cool. You produced it?
Just a couple songs.
Oh, that's awesome, man.
And
That's cool.
it was the first time I'd really consciously worked in that style.
Yeah.
And it was really fun, and that was kind of kicked off a lot of these songs because just using like a lot of like more contemporary synths that are just like super bright and
Polished, yeah.
yeah.
Polished sound.
So again, instead of being influenced by like the sound of like a 70s disco record or something,
Yeah.
which I've been influenced by in the past, it was more like what is like, you know, whatever pop record or just how
Yeah.
that's put together. I was really interested in learning about that. But now I'm back to more kind of warmer sounding stuff with the more recent batch of songs I've been doing.
Nice.
I mean, you did this whole record on your own, minus some stuff with Ben Allen. I mean, what can you kind of describe? Like, what is it like to do a complete record on your own without any kind of real influence at all?
I've kind of always, most of my records have been done like that. I have collaborated with Ben, you know, on a few of my records, and especially early on, he had a big influence because I would come in with like the skeleton of a song, like all of the synths and the like guitars and bass and stuff down, but then we would really kind of reinvent it by adding live drums, and he would bring in some players on occasion to like just add a little bit more live feel to stuff. So that taught me a ton. But with this record, I've kind of finally got to a place where I could do most of that on my own. So like there was a handful of songs where we brought in a drummer, but mainly Ben's input is, at least for this one, was just about songwriting and about just the mix. You know, he's an amazing mix engineer. So we were just, you know, working hard on getting it to sound, you know, as polished as possible. That was a good word. I mean, that was definitely the vibe we were going for. But yeah, I've never really collaborated
Yeah.
So I'm a terrible collaborator. I kind of start a song and I hear it in my head, and I just find it easier just to like knock it out myself. It might take me longer because I'm not a very good player, but and a lot of my style comes from not really knowing how to engineer very well. So I'll just figure out hacks where I don't have to engineer. I use tons of like virtual instruments and VSTs and stuff.
Where they're kind of already set with a
exactly,
sound.
yeah,
like,
yeah.
Oh, that already sounds great.
Exactly.
Let's just start messing with it.
So that's just led me to what I'm doing, and sometimes it can be a crutch, and sometimes it can be a bit limiting, but at the same time, it makes me figure it out on my own,
Yeah.
And there's times I get stuck, and I'll reach out for, an opinion, or maybe even someone to come play on stuff. But.
Yeah. I remember speaking to you about Purple Noon. I mean, dude, when was the last time New Year's Eve 2021?
Probably. Or
2020, sorry.
2019 going
2019
into 2020.
going to 2020.
Yeah.
Wow, dude.
Yeah.
I know you already had the record finished, and I was able to listen to it. Had the pleasure to listen to it before it came out.
Yep.
And we were talking about the influences behind it, and how you kind of love the idea of it having an acoustic song. Like you wrote like something with an acoustic guitar, which was pretty cool, and I think that at that moment, I'm not sure how you feel about it now, but at that moment I think I remember you saying that for the live shows you were going to have an acoustic guitar, piano possibly, very acoustic, stripped down sound. Is that something that you're still in that headspace, or is that like, oh wait a minute, I think for this new tour I don't want to go that route? Or
no, I'm right in the middle of like working on the look of the show.
That's cool.
And I think there's going to be a moment where like it's like just me playing acoustic guitar, that song.
Yeah, okay. Cool.
And so if you would have asked me like, we're talking about the first record like 10 years ago, that I would be performing like an acoustic guitar ballad as a washed out song, I would have been like, hell no. But again, it's like all of my records, it's, you create this like sonic world. And I think for this one, it started with like Too Late or something, or Time to Walk Away was one of the first songs. And you sort of start putting the puzzle together, and it really needed a slower ballad song. And, I was influenced by a lot of like 80s stuff, power ballads were very much a thing there. And so, I was like, let's give it a go. And I'm actually I'm proud of that song, because it's most often I tend to like overcrowd the mix with a bunch of different stuff, and there's not really that much going on in that song. So it's pretty rare. And I've tried to kind of, with the newer batch of stuff I'm working on now, I've gone out of my way to keep it like really minimal.
Okay. That's good. That's cool.
And it's more like closer to that vibe, I guess.
That's awesome, man.
I mean, the new album feels more expansive and relatively more open. I mean, what do you attribute that towards? I mean, would it be, and how would you feel different, like, moving forward?
Well, I think, the biggest influence was, like, a lot of Sade records, and, like, her music is quite minimal, like the arrangements and stuff. It just leaves a lot of space for her vocal, which is amazing, and also just the vibe of it is like very sensual, and so I was definitely trying to channel that a little bit. But I don't know, like I took a trip to Greece with my wife, and that's where we took all these photos, and it was just such like I was wanting to write music that like fit that experience, and that's often how I put my records together. It's like starts with some kind of visual thing, and that it's almost like I'm soundtracking that visual. Setting, So it was the same with like Paracosm or whatever. It was I was living at that point in a more rural area, and
oh really? For Paracosm, which I feel like it has a very big live band feel.
Yeah,
Eric Awesome does.
Yeah.
Like you guys were in the studio doing like a live rehearsal takes.
Well, that also came off the back of like doing a lot of touring, and so I was trying to write stuff for the band that could work for like a festival or whatever.
Yeah.
But yeah, I was also just like, I was living outside of Athens, Georgia, and like I had this huge studio window, and it just looked out on this awesome garden. And anyway, again, it was like I was like trying to make music that like fit that daytime vibe, you know. So
it definitely has a festival vibe too.
Yeah,
you're saying like you were touring a lot.
Yeah,
so it's funny, you know, what you were talking about earlier, how touring really helps make the new record. You know what I mean? It's intense having not tour like for how long has it been?
Well, it's I did a couple of DJ gigs after that New Year's gig in January and February, and then that was it. Yeah.
Wow. Dude, that's intense.
And the record was initially going to come out in like May, I think, and it didn't come out till August.
Dang.
Oh, so it still got pushed back.
Yeah, and there were just all kinds of. I was actually super disappointed. Like we've been working for like months on this video. We were gonna go at first. We were gonna go, where was it? I think somewhere in Italy. It was gonna be this like really high budget, like dramatic video. Like I was gonna be. It was like a love story thing.
Oh wow.
Looking back on it now, I'm like, what the hell are we thinking? Like, we would have thrown away a ton of money, but I was just so into the idea of like, I want to just really sell this. Anyway, we worked on it forever, and like, you know, COVID started to like creep into the picture, and then we were trying to figure out alternate locations for like another month. So like we were going to go to Croatia, and then the director was in the UK, and he found a spot in the UK, and it just kept getting pushed, and it just reached a point, you know, in probably April or May, you know, when things got really bad, especially in Italy, were really bad.
Oh, that's right.
And there was actually a few days where like I had a flight to Italy, and like we weren't sure, like we might get there, but we weren't sure if we were going to be able to leave,
right?
Because we would have to quarantine for 2 weeks or whatever.
Yeah.
So anyway, it was way too complicated.
Yeah, it sounds like a headache.
But that was really disappointing. And then there was just a number, just getting anything made, you know, during that period was really tough. So it was very frustrating because I'm, you know, obviously really into the visual side of things. But yeah, we just made do, and yeah, maybe there will be a little bit more budget for like the next round of stuff, so we'll see.
Was this the first time this has happened where you put out a record, you're like, okay, we're going to tour, you don't tour?
Oh yeah.
This is the first time it's happened, right?
Yeah, for sure. And it's so much like a routine of, like I said, it's like how my creative process has worked, of like, you know, you work really hard on the album, you rehearse with the band, you go on tour for like a year. You know, when I first started, we were going on tour for 2 years.
Wow.
And then by the end of that 2 years, you just have a lot of new ideas,
right?
You know? And so it didn't really work. It hasn't worked like that with this. So it's kind of thrown my process off a little bit, because it's like, you know, I think we were discussing earlier, it's like I knew that there would be a tour for this record at some point. And so I didn't know if I should be like, you know, moving past this into like a new creative zone, or I kind of like thought about maybe just writing an EP in this style. So like by the time we do tour, you know, it all still like makes sense together or whatever. And anyway, that's just kind of thrown my process off. But yeah, that's the way it goes. I mean, every other musician's in the same boat, you know.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, that's what I was going to ask. I mean, is the label kind of like, hey, you know, we know y'all are all kind of, for lack of a better term, fucked. I mean,
yeah.
Have they been cool about everything? I mean,
yeah, I mean, both of the labels I've worked with have been like super chill. You know, it's never like I have a deadline or anything. It's just like when stuff's ready, we'll put it out. I mean, there was like 3 or 4 years before Mr. Mello came out. So that relationship has always been very cool. But yeah, I'm sure they're like probably assuming that I've got more songs in the can than I actually do.
Right.
I do have a handful of singles, like I said, that I might put out before the tour, but there's definitely no album anywhere near done.
But I mean, like you were saying, I mean, you're in the middle of working on new things.
Mm-hmm.
There's no tour.
Mm-hmm.
You're like, okay, let's put a tour together. How long does that tour go for?
It's about a little over a month, I think. And then normally how it works is, we'll do a U.S. run, maybe go to like Europe or the UK for like a couple weeks, and then there'll be just random stuff that will pop up, like festivals or, the last record we went to like a trip to Japan and a trip to South America and some shows in Mexico and stuff like that will just pop up. But yeah, it's the cycle nowadays has been more like a year roughly that we'll kind of tour pretty heavy. So I hope that that's how it works with 2021.
Yeah, I hope so, man.
Or
2022.
2022. God, yeah, I'm like
2022, January 10th.
Yeah,
your first date.
Yeah.
And January 13th in Houston, Texas at Warehouse Live. Everybody that's watching.
Yes, looking forward to that.
Dude, that's gonna be great. You're touring for a whole month. It looks like January 10th to February 12th.
Yeah, it's a tight schedule, just for it all to make sense with the routing. There's only like a handful of days off, and like the days off, we're driving like 12 hours or whatever.
That sucks.
Yeah,
that's intense.
Yeah,
you're ending it in Atlanta, hometown.
Yep,
that's awesome, man.
Yeah, looking forward to that.
It's gonna be cool.
I mean, when I hear this new record, it sounds really positive. Like there's no real kind of. It's all real chill and everybody's real happy. But I mean, is there a way to get around that and not make that kind of record, or is it just kind of the vibe that went with this one?
Yeah, I think it was maybe the vibe that went with this one. Yeah, again, like kind of what we were saying earlier. If I work on a record that's really dark, it's likely that the next one will be different and more lighthearted or whatever. So I think I'll always work like that. It just keeps things fresh, I think.
Yeah.
And I don't like falling into doing the same patterns. And, I like normally switch up just completely using new gear for like a new record or a new like DAW or whatever, just to like mix things up.
Your DAW, you still using Ableton? Or have you tried anything else in the recent
years? I've been playing around with Logic a little bit just to, just to like see if it...
Change it up?
Yeah, change it up a little bit.
Yeah.
I do like Ableton because it works well with, using samples and stuff. It's nice.
And jamming and kind of making ideas.
We use that for the live show, and so it's makes for an easy transition.
Nice.
Because all the plugins and stuff are just already there. So
yeah.
I mean, one of the tracks off the new album has such an opposite of production vibe to it. When you listen to a song like Paralyzed, like, do you sort of think, well, this song can come again, or was it more of a in the moment kind of vibe?
Yeah, probably in the moment, I guess. Like I mentioned, the Sade reference, and that song to me is probably like the most obvious Sade sounding like groove to it. It has like a more kind of swinging drum sound, where a lot of the other stuff is a little bit more kind of dancey, I guess.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, that one, like most of these songs from that record, I'm just like at the keyboard.
Sure.
The chord progression pops up, and then just kind of build it from there. I mean, that's the fun part about music to me, is that I've been doing it for so long. There's very little like conscious thought about like planning to do, like wanting to do a certain thing. It just sit down and like a few hours later there's a song there,
Sure.
And it's like I'm not guiding it. It's just like happens. And so that's how 99% of my music has been made, you know. So I'm just trying to like ride that wave, and I'm pretty sure that's how that song came together.
Yeah, I mean, it's a great record. It's in fact, it's probably one of my favorite records to come out on Sub Pop. I mean, there aren't that many, there's a lot of records that come out, and they're good at first. You listen to them for a while, then you're kind of like, okay, I don't know about this anymore. It's one of the few records I can continuously listen to.
Oh, thanks, man.
Yeah, no problem. I mean, is there anything about it that you feel like makes it that way, or is it just that's what it is?
I don't know. I mean, like I was saying earlier, I did spend a bit more time on like the songwriting side of things, like just really making sure that the melodies were strong, like the choruses were a little bit more hooky or whatever. I think that has something to do with like repeated listens, I think that was probably the biggest weakness of Mr. Mellow, where sonically there was some more kind of out there stuff happening. I think like the songs weren't quite as strong, particularly like the vocal melodies and stuff. So again, the emphasis changes.
Yeah,
so
every record's been different, man.
But I think that's probably gonna stick though. Just like making sure that there's just so much music out there. Just constantly new stuff coming out, and so I'm always like, is this worth putting out? And normally that means like really taking the time to make sure that it's like the best work I possibly could do. Yeah.
On the Mr. Mellow, you were mentioning the sonic sound of it. I remember you also mentioned something about your engineer being. I'm a geek out a little bit because the guys love sound and engineering. You said something about a lot of your samples were downloaded from YouTube.
Yeah.
Is this right?
Yeah.
You said something like that, and and your engineer was like freaking out. He's like, "What the hell is this?"
He was like, I mean, they were like very low bit rate, downloads as well. It would be like a shitty MP3 some of the time. Would be like the best quality. I mean, some of the stuff was just that I was sampling was like so rare. It's like you couldn't find like a
higher quality. And
sometimes it was just practical. Like I just didn't want to waste the time to like find a better version or whatever. But yeah, we were just, we were kind of finishing it up, and like he was like, you realize like there's like a sound to this record, and I'm pretty sure it's like the YouTube compression. It's like,
YouTube compression.
It's like the sound of this record. And then actually when the guy that mastered it, mastered a bunch of those Jay Dilla records, nice. Like Donuts and all of that. And like I had a conversation with him on the phone, and he was like, well, like all of that stuff, like he was just moving so fast with the stuff he was making. He would like lose the original recordings, and like all he had was like a cassette tape. This is back in like late 90s, early 2000s.
Yeah.
And so a lot of that stuff is just mastered off the cassette tape, so that's where the vibe comes from. And it's obviously not high fidelity, but like something about it is like super charming and unique.
Yeah.
And so we were trying to channel a little bit of that. And then actually he sent me the first batch of masters, and I didn't think it was like pushed far enough. I was like, it needs to be a little more fucked up sounding.
Yeah. Oh wow.
And actually we rolled off, there's not hardly any low end on and it just sounds like just really warbly and fucked up.
Tape.
But it's been terrible. Like I did a DJ gig last night, and like if I play any of the stuff next to like a banging club song, it just sounds like super small. So I like crank up the low end, on the DJ mixer. But so I wasn't really thinking about the
YouTube
club
compression.
Yeah, it's I think it makes sense, as a record on its own. But yeah, if you play it against something else, it sounds pretty weak.
Yeah, everybody try out that YouTube compression. Try it out on your drums and your new tracks.
Sound on Sound or whatever. These like geeky magazines. They would just freak out and know about that.
That's pretty cool though. Did you have any more questions?
I didn't.
Oh, okay, cool, man. Well, dude, we really appreciate you being out here with us, man.
Oh yeah, my pleasure.
Dude, tonight you're gonna be at Axelrad doing a DJ set.
Yeah.
And I know you've been doing DJ sets for many years and stuff. There's I know you love it. It's fun. I mean, what kind of drew you to come back out and maybe do some more DJ sets before going out on tour? Is it just to get out and see people and
it's super fun because sometimes it can be frustrating. I will say it's really hard because my music is pretty laid back, as we've been talking about, and I basically end up playing a completely different set most nights because, some nights it might be like a proper dance club and my stuff just doesn't cut it. So I'll like have to mix in some like house music or whatever. And then other nights I can play more of myself. I feel like Axelrad will be a great, I've played there with you guys before. It's just, I'm guessing like a nice mix of people and it's not just raging dance club vibes.
Yeah.
So it's like
nightclub.
I can kind of take it in whatever direction I want, which is my ideal situation. But yeah, it just keeps me on my toes. It's always like a reason to like dig up new stuff, and I try to do the washed out sound, but still make sense for the room. Because I mean, in my opinion, DJing's all about like playing the right song for the right crowd. So
that's cool, man. Yeah, it's. I know you have another few dates, DJ sets, like, and this whole weekend, right? Where are you at tomorrow?
Tomorrow is in Ogden, Utah, which is right outside of Salt Lake City.
Oh, geez, that's far away.
And it's with Louis the Child, which, they're like very young, poppy electronic music. So it's like that will be definitely be different vibe than tonight.
Yeah.
I'll probably push it a little bit more in that direction. And then Sunday is in San Francisco, and it's like a pool party daytime thing, which
that's cool. That's
kind of like my sweet spot.
Yeah,
'cause,
pool parties.
Or it's just I can do like I love like, especially for that setting, like disco records, like older stuff, and so I can kind of take that in a number of different directions. But like I've done gigs in LA at like the Hollywood dance clubs, and it's like the guy before me is playing like 125 BPM, just raging house music. So it's like, where do you take that? You have to kind of start from there, and it can be a challenge sometimes.
For sure, man. And then just going back to the tour, and then we'll wrap it up here. The tour, you guys have been rehearsing with the full band, or are you going to be doing something similar to your live stream that you did at the pier?
Yeah, it's going to be pretty close to that.
Okay, cool.
2 other musicians.
Nice.
And we haven't, we rehearsed for that a year ago.
Yeah.
So we have it all kind of somewhat planned out, but we haven't played since then. So there's going to be a couple weeks of probably getting together and running through stuff a bunch.
That's going to be good, man. Yeah, you can check out all the dates at washtout.net, right?
Yep.
That's awesome, man. Well, dude, thank you so much for being here.
Yeah,
dude.
My pleasure.
And I want to thank David Garrett of Closed Caption for being here as well.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, hopefully whenever you guys come back, January 13th, maybe we can get the full band in here, man.
Yeah, that would be great.
Do a little strip down session or something.
Yeah, for sure.
Something will be cool. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But everybody, tonight, Washed Out Ernest is going to be at Axelrad. That's 1517 Alabama. In Houston, Texas. It's 21 and up. And the show starts at 8. And you go on around 9:30ish.
Yep.
Yeah. So go check it out. It's free. Yeah. Anything else, man? Anything else you want to...
I'm just psyched to be back here, man.
Yeah, dude.
Cool.
We're psyched for you to be here, man.
Yeah.
Thankfully, things are kind of easing down, sorry.
Yeah.
So now we can kind of get out.
Sure.
Get your vaccines.
Please.
Please do it. All right, man. We're rolling out. You could press play on the next track, please. This is Hide from Purple Noon. Nice.
Awesome. My pleasure. Like I said, this is great. Yeah, we'll have. I want to do because we, when we're touring, promo stuff, we'll do some stuff like this. But I've never really had a solid plan of doing a performance. Our stuff is like so production based.
Yeah.
Anyway, I have a plan to some of these songs are just like the acoustic guitar stuff. Like I can just play, with a simpler setup.
No, you can leave the stream going. Just mute the mics.
So yeah, maybe by the time we're here, we'll have like a little 3-piece.
Yeah, stripped down stuff. Yeah. Do you think that you're constantly trying to write parts for the live show?
It ebbs and flows. I was definitely thinking about the live show with this one, but Mr. Mello was the opposite. I was like, I don't really want to consider that. I just want to make like the weird